Happy Wednesday, you crazy kids. How are you? I guess we have another state now or a city that we don't have to ever visit again. And that is very, very sad. But New York has fallen to the commies. Who would have thought it? Not even a shot fired. It's almost like that was predicted, wasn't it? Many, many years ago. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Is it unbelievable? And the answer is no, it's not. And I'm going to get into this today. Hello, my peeps. Hey, Layla is in the house. I'm going to get into this today because, you know, I've said this multiple times on this channel and on X, on social media. And of course, people say, oh, you know, you're complaining and this and that. But it's not complaining when you have a communist take over a city. You know, I am a student of history and I know where this ends. So we have to take these things very, very seriously. And there's not a lot of things I am an expert in, but I am an expert in the culture because I have worked in it for my whole life, one way or the other. And unfortunately, when you get old, as I am, you get this thing called wisdom. And hopefully with that wisdom, you get something called clarity. And I think that the entertainment industry is very unique. And why is it unique? Well, it's unique because everyone thinks they can do it. And that's why I loved American Idol. Because everyone thinks they can sing. Or most people think they can sing. They sound really great in the bathroom, in the shower, in the car. And then when you put them up on stage, you go, well, hang on a minute. Same thing happened to me when I was directing my movie, I'm That Man. I have some people that worked on the show and they were so arrogant in their ability as actors. Actually, arrogant is a strong word. Overconfident. And then when you point a camera at them, they fall apart because it's not just being able to act. You know, when you do something like acting, you have to be able to decipher the role, right? You have to be able to be technically proficient as far as, you know, understanding camera angles, and you have to obviously be able to learn the lines. And then you have to deal with the pressure. And let me tell you, when you're in a movie like Transformers, where it's, you know, you've got F-22s flying over and you've got to say your lines at the right time, it's a different kind of pressure. If you do a movie with Stallone, and he's one of the greatest of all time, he's a legend, you got to bring your A game. That brings a whole load of pressure. So my point is, it's not easy in the entertainment industry, but everyone thinks they can do it. Hang on a minute. Wonko, the most awesome, is like, I am so getting sparkly lion today. I don't care. Wonko, the same, gives 5 Matthew Miles and channel memberships off to a flyer. J13erd. Is that J1 Bert? I don't know what that is. Hercules Balls. Really now? Rob Altis. Bone Apple Tea Party. Riley Parrish, you will get memberships from the most awesome and devastatingly handsome Wonko, the most awesome of the sane. First sparkly line of the day. Yes, you do. Well done, sir. All right. So anyone who has stood up in front of a crowd, now I find talking in front of a crowd very, very easy. And a lot of people don't. It's like, it's up there with the most anxious thing that they can do. Like, it causes major stress in some people. Public speaking, along with a couple of other things, it ranks right up there. So you guys know, and the people that follow me know, it's not that easy. So it's weird how when you get investors that come in and they want to do projects, they kind of tell you the way it's going to be. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, by the way. And it's because, they watch movies. So they watch movies and they feel like they're experts on it. But, you might watch a movie, but you don't actually know what it takes to make one. And I can tell you, because I've been on every level of it, that, you do theatre, then you transition, go into like television. It's a learning curve. Nobody really teaches you when you're in drama school or acting, that it's the fundamentals of the acting. It's not about how you behave on set. It's not about how you react, how you deal with co-stars. It's not about the pressure cooker environment of doing a television show. And then how to deal with the fame, and then how to move again onto movies, which is a completely other discipline. So why am I saying this? Well, because you rarely, but I don't think ever see a investor or someone who is wealthy go in and tell a doctor how to do his job. Or go in and tell, sometimes they do with construction. That's why people just leave. They're like, no, I can't build what you want, right? That's a physical impossibility. And that's why there are so many lawsuits, because you'll have engineers tell someone, you can't do that. And they'll go, do it, and push it. All right? So, why am I saying that? You've heard me talk about the culture war quite a bit. And you hear people talk about the culture war, the culture war, the culture war. And it gets just like to be a phrase, right? It gets to be a phrase. But it's really, really important. And it's actually way more important than politics. Because as the great Andrew Breitbart said, it is downstream. Politics is downstream from culture. So when you have a communist come in and take over as mayor of New York City, why does this happen? And the first thing that people say is the education system. But that is actually not true. We've always had low information voters, always. But what we have now is a shift in the American culture. And I want to get into it because it's really important that you out there, the few that follow me, the few, the proud that follow me, understand these things when you move forward and talk about them. All right? So you're equipped with knowledge. Now, some of this you might go, yes, I know this, Matt, and I'm aware. But we need to get across to other people actually how important the culture is, right? So, and there's some things that are going to annoy people and offend with what I'm going to say. But I don't want you to be offended by it. I want you to look at this objectively. All right, don't be offended. Look at this objectively and understand, like everything that I say, I'm trying to get to the truth. Or trying to share the truth. Trying to be honest. And we're big people here. Our shoulders are broad enough to hear the truth. Because if you're not, then you're just as delusional as the left. And we need to deal with this because it's really, really important. All right. So, the culture. One of the things that I've argued about for the longest time, or discussed, should I say, is what is going over in the UK is a destruction of the British culture. What does it mean to be English? What does it mean to be an American? I'll tell you what it doesn't mean to be an American, and that is communism. That is completely antithetical to the American way of life. Sharia law in the UK is completely antithetical to British culture. It just is. That's not like, it's not hating on anyone. There are several things about my faith that, I mean, look, there was a whole Reformation that happened against Catholics in England. I'd argue that it didn't end up better because of that, but then, you know, we're seeing this all over, even in, you know, in my faith. But one thing that was really, really important and always has been important, and this is where I'm going to speak to my Protestant brothers and sisters on this. And when I say Protestant, I don't mean English Protestants. I'm talking about American Protestants. And that is the importance of truth and beauty. Hey, Tom. So we might say, well, of course we want truth. Okay, well, why? Why is truth so important, and why should we value it? Probably above everything else. Well, because everything bad starts with a lie. Every failed marriage starts with a lie. Every crime starts with a lie, one way or the other. Every war starts with a lie. And what we're seeing right now, which is very, very weird, is we have the gatekeepers of truth, which should be the media and journalists, abandoning their responsibilities. You know, if you watch MSNBC, that you're not going to get truth from them. Now, you might say, well, you know, it's MSNBC, but it shouldn't be that way. But our culture has moved in such a way that that is acceptable, and it's not acceptable. And what we're doing is we're just kind of accepting these things. We accept lies because they're inconvenient to us. Or should I say, the truth is inconvenient to us when we accept lies. And very often that's because you don't want to do anything about it. You don't want it to affect your life. You don't want it to put you out. For example, I said many moons ago that all this transgender nonsense at schools would stop the moment that you pulled your kid out. If you are going to a volleyball game and there's a guy on the other side, there is no way on God's green earth that my daughters are going to go and play against a guy who's saying that he's a girl. It's not going to happen. And if that means forfeiting a championship, if that means getting kicked out of the school, so be it. It used to be that we would stand up for what was right and what was true. And now it's all about avoiding being uncomfortable. And we're all guilty of it. Now, part of my issue is that on a large scale, i.e., in front of the world on social media, I have stood up for truth. Now, you shouldn't be rewarded for doing what is right because it's inherently rewarding. And my place that I'm working on is getting into heaven, not into the academy. So the biggest issue that we have is our abandonment of the importance of truth. and us being lazy about fighting for it, about not valuing it enough to allow it, the lies to fester. And the one person who's actually pushed against it is Donald Trump. And if you think, if he hadn't come along, we'd be even worse. We'd be really, really, really bad. Because he's the first guy to turn around and have a go back. And all us little guys, in comparison to Trump, who are doing it, just get crushed. That's why I keep saying numbers matter, numbers matter, numbers matter. So the issue with denying the truth is that the pain long term is way more severe. And this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing that the pain of going out in the streets and protesting, like in the UK, mass immigration, over here, the co-opting of schools by the radical left, or, the trans ideology coming into our schools, it's going to become a lot more painful to resolve it. And what the boomers did, I hate to say it, guys, but the boomers kicked it down the road, didn't they? And now Gen X have a decision to make. Are they going to be the dam that stops it for their kids? Are we going to be the ones that get to be the moderates? I know that might sound crazy, but the youngsters now are getting massively radicalized. And although it's great that you're seeing people really wake up, a lot of youngsters really wake up to the fact that, liberalism is not what it all is made out to be. They're also becoming very, very radical, right? So it's easy for them to go, do you know what? I see these people, like, for example, I always have the stance of, I don't want to give my money to any other country. I want it to go to people in the United States. Well, for some youngsters, they're like, screw all these other countries. And I'm like, hang on a minute. There's a little bit of nuance there. Do you see what I'm saying? No, crazy. I'm not saying all boomers. I'm just saying some of them. But you have a twofold issue if you deny the truth. Firstly, it's going to end up being bad. It's going to end up being worse for you than if you tackled the truth when you found it and chose to ignore it. But secondly, denying the truth has a really profound effect on your soul, on who you are. I remember having a conversation with a family member once, and they said to me, "Oh, well, Matt, that wasn't your fault, But and I said, I want to stop you right there. I participated in that. I wasn't strong enough to say no or to extract myself from a situation. So even though you could explain it away, I want to take ownership of that. And we really lack ownership these days. Everybody wants to point the finger at everybody else, especially in the millennials. So the truth is really important. I know it sounds crazy, but if you think about, Trump getting in 2016, he was calling it fake news in 2016. That's 9 years ago. So we have a whole generation of kids that have grown up in a post-truth world. And that is crazy. And I think Gen X are the last generation to really have both, to be able to see the way the media has turned and to remember what it was like before, the before times. And so we're really crucial right now for the youngsters. And a lot of the youngsters look up to Gen Xers. And so it's our responsibility to help them. I mean, with me, I look and I've got a 26-year-old, I've got a 19-year-old, and then kids below that. But really, you're looking at anyone in their 20s, even up into their 30s, that have been brought up in this world where truth is completely subjective and not objective. And they haven't been urged to find it above all else. And part of that comes with ineffectual leaders. Part of it comes with the abandonment of people's faith. And again, the abandonment of people's faith comes from ineffectual leaders, especially in the church. But why was I earlier on talking about Protestants? Here's why. If you go into a Catholic church in any city, pretty much, in mainland Europe, and you're going to see beautiful things. Now, some people say, well, that's idolatry. I've already dismissed all that. All that has been dismissed. And you can either choose to listen to it or not. But if you're a Protestant and you go into a Church of England, you are walking into a former Catholic church. So it's important for American Protestants to understand, as I've said many times, there is a sheet of paper between Church of England or Anglicans in the UK and Catholics. That's it. The service is almost exactly the same. They go to the same churches that Catholics did. In fact, when I went back and I went to York Minster, it was so spectacular to go there and see the beauty. But what has happened over here, which coincides with 1970s, and you can say this about Catholic churches over here from the 70s onwards, is they're darn ugly. Churches are so ugly here that when you go to church, and I'm saying this, I go to one of the ugliest churches on the face of the planet, and I hate it, the actual aesthetics of it. But the mass is great, and the music is beautiful, and the liturgy is great. But I have the memory. I can go to a beautiful church. Protestant churches are not beautiful. They're like theaters. And unfortunately, that is a huge mistake. And I understand why people have done it over the years. They wanted to separate themselves from Catholicism, and they believe. I mean, the funny thing is these churches still cost hundreds of millions of dollars that are built. I mean, if you look at Joel Osteen's church, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. They still spend a ton of money on them, but they're ugly. They're like just massive, big stadiums. And we're meant to be inspired. And people might say, well, you're meant to be inspired by what the preacher says. Yeah, that's true. But if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, or if you've ever been to Colorado and seen the mountains up there, or if you've ever, I could go on the Pacific Northwest, or, the beauty, everyone talks about the natural beauty of California. That is a reflection of it's God's creation. It's a reflection of Him. And so you look at that beauty and you go, there has to be a God. I also look at the duck-billed platypus and say, I don't know what you were thinking, but that animal is so mental, there has to be a God. But my point is, beauty matters. And if you look at it the other way, look at what the communists did. The communists built grey concrete buildings that were featureless, brutalist architecture, which, by the way, really took hold in Birmingham, in the closest city to where I grew up, in the 1960s and 70s. It's a very depressing place. Now, if you go to the Lake District, or if you go to Oxford or Cambridge or the Peak District, or certain parts of Birmingham, you go to Bournville, where the Quakers built this incredible city or the town, and it's beautiful. I always remember being in London, walking around when I very first moved down to London. I remember walking around, I'm like, this place is so beautiful. They had these Georgian houses. It made you feel like you're in Oliver Twist. It was just beautiful. But we lack beauty. And that's why if you're in Dallas and you go to Old Parkland, it's beautiful. It's so much more beautiful because people understood that our souls need to be inspired by beautiful things. That is why Hollywood is full of beautiful people, because we'd much rather go and watch someone who's beautiful than someone who's ugly. It's really, really important. And so, again, like I said, that's not an attack. You guys know it's not an attack on Protestants. But I want them to understand that beauty really, really is important. And what you're finding now is a lot of pastors, a lot of evangelical pastors are like, hang on a minute. If I go back and look at the scripture, a lot of the stuff that's been said about the Catholic Church is wrong. And what we've done is we have abandoned beauty to separate ourselves from the Catholic Church. And that's a problem. Now, I say that, like I said, oh, by the way, yeah, Jim just said the Obama Library. Look at it. Look at that. I mean, you can never say that was inspiring. When you go to Malta, there's 365 churches on the island, and it's very, very small. So you can go to a different church every day of the year. But almost every one is spectacularly beautiful. Like if I picked up the local church in St. Paul's Bay and dropped it here, everyone would go, that is the most beautiful church in America. Because they made it beautiful. Because it's like, for me, when you want to do something for your wife, you don't go out and say, I'm going to go and get her the shittiest bunch of flowers ever. Like, you go and you take your time, you find, okay, that one isn't dead. And, you try and find the most beautiful one. We're hardwired for this. We're really hardwired to identify and be attracted to beauty. Now, all right, I'm having my, this is some kind of a vegetable drink. Well, I'm John Galt just said, I'm sure the Communist Party would find the library inspiring. Not inspiring, useful. Useful. They don't want anything to be inspiring, but it will be useful. So, why did I lead with talking about, and I know I'm normally like up and rah, talking about this, but this is a really important topic, considering, because we could say, look at the New Yorkers, they're stupid, like what are they doing, which is all is true, but this has a way more like a far-reaching impact on our society, and in Dallas, in any major city in the United States of America. So why am I saying this? I've gone on and on and on forever about entertainment and about the Conservatives don't invest in entertainment. Well, when did we abandon it as Republicans? Because if you look back and think about the Reagan years, so during the Reagan years, we had Stallone. The biggest stars in the world were Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis. Right? They were the three biggest stars in the world. They're all Republicans. Now, you could argue that Arnie isn't, right? But he's from Austria. You know, he's about as Republican as you're going to get from that side of the pond, and he's married to a Kennedy. So, you know. But what did they do? They all emphasized hard work. Each one of those actors. Think about it. Arnie's always going on about hard work. What did he do? He came over. He couldn't even speak the language, and he became the biggest movie star in the world. He got Mr. Olympia. He then went and became the governor of California. I mean, you can like him or not like him, but that guy is unbelievable. And did it come through talent? He's not a talented actor at all. I mean, he can act. He's not on the same level as Sly, I can tell you that. Sly is an actor. And the difference is like Arnold is a star that became an actor and was very good. He chose his roles very well. Stallone was always a great actor and a phenomenal writer. Phenomenal writer. And let me tell you, because I've worked with him as a director, he's an amazing director. Very sharp. All you have to do is watch Copland. Copland, he's brilliant in it. I would argue go and watch Rocky Balboa again because he reprised that role like 25 years after he did it, and he doesn't miss a step. It's very, very difficult what he did. But he talks about hard work all the time. He had nothing. He went off and he wrote Rocky Balboa. And then he was tireless in wanting to be the biggest star in the world. And he worked his ass off. And I said to him when we were on set, I was like, Sly, you got your body was compared to Mr. Olympia. Like, come on now. That's crazy to me. Even now, can you tell me an actor whose body was compared to Mr. Olympia's? Like an actor? Now, I mean, you might look at someone like The Rock who has chops. He does have chops. He's a good actor. But again, he came through the wrestling and... but my point is, they all worked hard. They all love America. And their movies made billions of dollars. And they influenced the whole world. Not just America. I grew up watching, I've told you guys before, I grew up watching Rocky and I was like, if he can do that, like I can do it. In my little like 10-year-old brain, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to achieve something. I remember I couldn't afford weights, so I got like, I don't know, like bags of sugar, and I was like, you know, doing curls, doing push-ups, and I remember watching No Retreat, No Surrender, that movie, and I was like desperate to do martial arts, and, you know, we couldn't afford it. But the influence that America had across the world was massive in the 80s. And we had such an era of prosperity. I mean, if you think about what they did, what Reagan did was incredible. Thatcher in the UK, period of unprecedented growth. It's weird, isn't it? Like, you look at both the USA and the UK, and we had, what was his name? Peanut Farmer, Jimmy Carter, and we had a Labour government as well over in the UK. And then Thatcher comes in, Reagan comes in, and all of a sudden, I'll never forget being in London. It was really wild. I'll never forget it. It's burned into my head. I moved down to London, and I'm walking down. It was a place in the Docklands. And I just remember going, wow, I could fit, like, that was where all the yuppies, remember the yuppies? That's where all the yuppies were moving into near Limehouse in London. And I remember seeing my first Porsche. and he was driving down. It was a red Porsche. He was driving down the cobblestones of London, and it was, by the way, hardly anyone there in comparison to what it is now. There's nobody else on the street when I was walking down there, and I just remember, them playing. The guy was. It's so funny. I can remember it. Running in the Family by Level 42. So whatever year that was, I remember hearing it, and I remember thinking, I can do anything. I can be anybody that I wanted to be. And so it was so inspiring back then. But it was anti-communist. It was very, very clear, right? You got USSR. I mean, even all you got to do is look at Rocky IV, right? You look at Rocky IV, it's the Russians were cheating, they were using steroids and whatever, and there was the battle between the Americans and the Russians, and communism was really clearly defined. And it was amazing, right? It was really amazing. And there was an RNC speech by Pat Buchanan in 1992, and he was talking about the culture war against secularism. And this is part of the issue, because secularism was kind of embraced as the intellectual way to go. Like, you can deny, it's like the spaghetti monster in the sky, or whatever they want to call God. Which is rejecting hundreds and hundreds of years of the greatest minds that have ever walked the planet, thinking that they know better. And secularism, people were just bailing. And it was a combination of, again, feckless leaders. If you think about it, like in the 80s, which was awesome, we had Mother Teresa, and people still attack her now, like revisionist history. If ever you want fake news, look at what the nasty things they say about Mother Teresa. And then you got Pope John Paul, who was amazing. But again, Pope John Paul was a former actor. He acted when he was a young man, and he was handsome. But he was viciously anti-communist. And so this is where, when we started moving into the 90s, again, it's complacency to a degree. And Clinton comes in, who, there's a dot-com boom and all that under Clinton. And he was a morally bankrupt person. And, very charming. Yeah, Michelle, I know that Reagan was an actor from late 30s to 54, 55. He actually toured the country as well with GE, which really honed his speech making. I've been to the Reagan Museum multiple times. So yeah, you're right, though. He was an actor. It's funny, isn't it? The two greatest presidents in our lifetime have both been on television. Fancy that. So then, if you're thinking about the 90s was the last era, really, where you had good music. Really. And even the movies in the 90s were pretty great. I went through the 90s the other day. Really, there's an argument for the 90s being the best decade in filmmaking. Like, overall, there's an argument for that. But that's when things really started to turn. And I have a whole theory about it, about how the agents came into Hollywood and they started pushing their own agenda. I mean, I remember being in the, no names are going to be mentioned, I remember being in the early 2000s, and you go and look at the people that they pushed to be the next action star. It's so weird to me. The guys were effeminate, to say the least, or at least not like physically strong. I remember I went and did an audition with one of them, and I was like, there's no way they're going to put me opposite him. And I'm not a big muscular, I'm a big guy, but I'm not a big muscular guy. I've never been that kind of a person. But if you, all right, so you're looking at the 80s being like peak patriotism, um, lots of creatives, like the conservatives dominating the culture in the 80s. And it's funny because even the left looks back and says, oh, the 80s were amazing. Yeah, because we were controlling everything. We were controlling the culture, and we got you guys on a short leash. You just made the shit that we wanted to get, that wanted you to make. We didn't let you put your ideology into it. But the 80s was when the ideology started being injected into television shows, because they understood that that's what they had to do. If you were going to normalize something, then you needed to get it into the American psyche and the world psyche. So the 90s, they were working really hard behind the scenes, the left was, and they understood that they had to flip the culture. So when you get into the 2000s, you had something that they didn't expect, which was the war on terror. So we had 9/11 happen, and all of a sudden Americans were back to the 80s again and being massively patriotic. Interestingly enough, they didn't do many pro-war movies through that period of time. And that's where you know that they hated George Bush, but the troops were unintentional casualties of that, because they wanted to show the troops, and they did in many, many movies, in a bad light, which actually made that, like, caused them to be under way more stress and danger. Because if you think about it, if you put a movie out about Rambo, everyone's shitting themselves that you're not going to have like 200 Rambos coming into town. Even now that people talk about Rambo, people who've never even seen the movie talk about Rambo, because it's another word for like a loose cannon guy who's tough as hell. Now, I think they should be calling people schoolboy, but there you go. So the left really in the 2000s really started understanding that that was the way they were going to push back. And it started in Hollywood. Now, they're already working on academia, but that's a long-term project for them. They've been doing that for a while. But they couldn't be overt with what they were doing in Hollywood. It had to be bit by bit, subtle, a little bit here, a little bit there. The people rising up who were real lefties and their collaborators in Hollywood going, hey, listen, he's one of us. Let's. This is why the right is so stupid. I cannot tell you how stupid they are. The left does this all the time. Just hire him. He's on the team. We never do that. And that's a problem. It's a real problem. Now, I'm not saying you hire somebody who is just conservative just cause, but if you've got two people there and one person, let's say they're equal, and one person is a conservative, hire the conservative. I mean, you save yourself a headache with HR anyway. But at some point, you have to say, we have to elevate these people. Left does it all the time. I know a director who was absolutely useless, and he got funded by this billionaire. I'm not going to say, but why? Let's say like this. He was a minority, and I'm not going to say whether that's in, a gay guy or a black guy or an Asian or whatever. But the guy that was behind him was a billionaire, and he just said, just keep making movies. Didn't care. Did not care, because he understood that he needed to get that person in a position of power. And we just don't do it. We all circle the wagons. So then we had, if you look into the 2010s, right, we kind of saw what was going on, and we're looking at the Republicans, and we're like, hang on, you guys are just as bad as the left. And then the Tea Party happens. Right, the Tea Party happens. And then you've got, that's the core of MAGA. And the reaction to that was Trump. The funny thing is right now, I see a lot of bickering between different conservative pundits. A lot of them were anti-Trump. A lot of them were wrong. A lot of them were snobbish about Trump. They were like, no, he should never be. And now he's actually saved America. It's funny how you have amnesia. But now we're in a situation where Trump is in. The left they've pushed so far in the culture with things like Star Wars and Marvel. It's just been rejected. Now, you got to remember, this is the first time in history that something like this has happened. Because the film industry is only 100 and odd years old. It's not that old. But it has an absolutely huge effect on the culture. Television has a huge effect on it. It's such a force multiplier. It inspires. It influences. It drives the narrative a lot of the time. So we have, hold on a minute. I just deleted my notes. Isn't that great? Bear with me 1 second, guys. Bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can pull my notes up again. So we're in a situation right now where we are under siege. I know, Lisa, all my talks are normally about without notes. If you haven't noticed, I come in here and I wax lyrical, but I think it's really, really important to drive these things home because we're at a crisis point. And I just hope that someone out there is going to hear this. And we're seeing people, we've seen the conservatives kind of get involved in the culture, get involved in movies. And a lot of people go, oh, well, you know, those days are over. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. People have just rejected the woke agenda. But what they're doing is they're going on these things. And these things are full of the woke agenda. It's just that it's every 4 of the scrolls that you go up that you get a conservative one. But that's me and you. We can discern that. Our kids can't. They don't know. And the more informed people get it, but there's a lot of uninformed people. How can you ever vote in a communist in New York City? I mean, that is insane. If the alarm bells aren't going off, I don't know what to say to you. So, let me point a few things out to you. There's a show that I love that is the longest running show on television, I believe, which is what? See if you can tell me what it is. What's the longest running show on television? I'll tell you, Simpsons. Now, I love The Simpsons. But tell me about Homer. Homer's a dummy. He's uneducated. Keeps making all these mistakes. And guess what? His daughter, especially his daughter, knows better than him. It's a big problem. If you look at the majority of Disney movies, the girls and the boys in them are orphans. It's very rare that you'll come across a show now that will show an intact family with a dad that is smart. You rarely see an intact family where the dad is not only not smart, you want to see a dad that's competent. Now, it's actually I can tell you from a creative standpoint, it brings you get more conflict if you have a divorced or one of the parents are dead. But it's very easy to do that. It's very easy writing. It's very lazy writing to do that because you've immediately got an obstacle to overcome. And you also have a impact on the child from only having one parent or the conflict between the two parents. Interesting that they say that that isn't the case in real life, right? That it doesn't matter. So the impact on the family unit is massive. And especially, and I'm sorry, I'm going to offend some people about this, but I don't care. Women have become more feminist and they are wearing the trousers more and more and more. And it is damaging to the family relationship. It's damaging. The dynamic is damaging, whether you like it or not. The man is the head of the household. There can only be one head of the household. Now, that doesn't mean that the wife doesn't have a say in everything. I always say this when people say, oh, women only just got the vote X amount of years ago. I'm like, you think the women didn't make a decision on, it wasn't a collaboration? I mean, of course, there are going to be some instances where men just go, I'm going to go and vote for this house. But the majority of the time, it's in a functional relationship. You sit down and you speak to your wife and you reason these things out and you come to a conclusion. That's what functional relationships do. So that was BS. It's like I had a phone call. A friend of mine can tell you this right now. I had a phone call from my friend last night. He's like, hey, Matt, do you want to come around to our buddy's house and have a beer? And I don't like beer. And I was like, oh, I really fancy that. But I had one kid that I put down to sleep at 8 o'clock and I go and lie in the bedroom with him as he falls asleep. And then I had to go and pick up my daughter. And you know what went through my head? I could go, but my wife has to do that. And I didn't want to do it. Now, that wasn't my wife telling me that I couldn't do it. It wasn't her being some kind of an ogre about it. But it was because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to serve my wife and my family. And that was more of a priority than what I wanted for me. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't understand it. I mean, this is the way it functions. And if my friends say the same thing, I think they're good husbands and good fathers. And this is the misconception. Is this Michelle? Michelle just became a member. Amazing. If you are members, if you got gifted a membership, by the way, go and re-up yourself. Come on now, Michelle. Sparkly day for you, darling. Yes, it is. So, you guys tell me, isn't that what you do in a functional relationship? Like, I would rather please my wife, right? Do something for her than do something for myself. I don't know. It's. I guess that's why we've been married 20 years. I don't know. Because we do things for each other. We're very thoughtful. Now, the thing is, I'm just going to say this. We do have different ways of communicating, right? Like, I like to hear things, right? Like, I like my wife to tell me that she loves me, right? Like, I like to hear it. She is not like that. She does things, right, for you, right? Like, so she's the best gift giver ever. And I'm going to put this out. Ladies, let me tell you what happens to me every single year. Every single Christmas, every single birthday, I say to my wife, what do you want for Christmas or what do you want for your birthday? And you know what her answer is? You should know. And I'm like, well, I don't. That's why I'm asking you. And what I've realized is you can never go wrong with a fancy handbag. I cracked the code, guys. You can never go wrong with a fancy handbag. Don't try and buy clothes. You'll always get it wrong unless you're gay, especially when that comes to shoes, right? Just don't do it. Because the idea of, I mean, I bought my wife so many things I thought I was being really helpful for, and they have just stayed in the box in the wardrobe, never to be seen. I can tell you that right now. You should know. If she was there, I think she just walked through the door. You know, if she knows it as well, she'd laugh. You should know. Well, of course I don't know. Now, and I'm the easiest one. She'll be like, okay, well, I bought you something. She bought me something the other day. She got me this like power charger. She'll buy me something gun related. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very easy. Like, if I can shoot it or if it's got something to do with cars or, you know, I'm very easy. And dudes are like that. Like, literally, you could get me a new set of screwdrivers every year. And I'll be like, that's awesome. I lost 2 of them. It's true. Dudes will tell you, right? Guys, can you go wrong? I know I'm segueing on this. I don't care. Can a woman go wrong with buying you a ratchet set? I'm just saying, you buy a dude a power tool, ha! It's all over. But my wife does buy the best presents. Like, she bought me this thing that, you know, she came and she goes, I got you this. It's a solar charger for a phone. I never thought that. By the way, do you know what else? And I'm segueing. This is going way away from what I was talking about, but it is what it is. Let me tell you something. Getting bought socks for Christmas is not overrated. All right? I don't know where I have, you know, socks that I wear for my shoes. I must have like, I don't know, 40 pairs of white, you know, short ankle socks that I wear with sneakers. But I have gone through, I don't know how many, like shoe socks. You guys know what I mean? Like proper shoe socks. I don't know where they go. I don't know. I must have a fairy in the house that steals them. But I have to literally, every time I go and I'm going to wear a suit, I'm like, where are my socks? Where have they gone? I don't understand. By the way, this is another thing you can get. Just a little hint. I can't tell you how many of these I have. I've got them all over the house. See, I'm telling you, dudes, socks, screwdrivers, power tools, anything to do with the car, any like fancy thing, something to do with cigars, any manly thing, I'm telling you. Rage in the Hizzle gives 10 Matthew Marsden channel memberships. Whoa! Elfie111, Opus, Elvira Zandi, Sports Nana 72, Tanya Fabregas gets one. Whoa! Samantha Mustard McDowell, Graham Ford, David Moore, Judge Matty, Ariel Black. You all got memberships from the most awesome, dynamic Rage. And Rage gets the lion. Never had that before. Never had that before. We never had the lion and the sparkly lion following each other. I'm just saying. Very special. Thank you, Rage. You're awesome. And by the way, if you haven't upped your membership, what are you doing? Go right now and up your membership. Come on. Up your membership. Re-up your membership. We're building. Listen, Adam, I think like they're stealing one of my socks and one of your socks. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I've got one of, you know, you get those packs where it's like a light brown set and then a darker brown set and then a darker brown set. I cannot tell you how many times I've bought multiple of those and they all disappear. And the white ones my kids wear, and I'll look at them and I'll go, huh, nice socks. Now, my big kids, my boys, aren't here anymore. So they don't steal my stuff anymore, which is, and there's something about that where you're like, I kind of love the fact that my boys are stealing my stuff, right? To be honest, I do. And I've given Finn a lot of stuff. But I have no idea where those socks go. No idea. All right. So I'm going back to the culture because we've segued now. You guys pulling me off track. Free speech in the culture. People don't even know. Like, one of the things that reinforced culture, reinforced what America is the culture. And I know that sounds silly, but you'd have these things in tandem, right? You'd have your educational system. You'd have your family. The peers outside of that, your larger community, and then you have the culture. There's tornado. Can you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that, but that's a tornado alarm. So think about that. Now you have the family. Can you hear that now? I don't know if you guys can hear that. But you have the family. Some people have the community, but not like it used to be, right? Not like it really used, that tight community. I have that here. I'm very grateful for it. And you certainly do not have the entertainment industry at all. I mean, that is a full front assault on culture against what you believe all day. And the problem that we have with conservatives is they turn around and they say, just turn the TV off. It's so dumb to say that. It's so dumb. That's like going, well, don't go to school then. Well, my kids don't. Like, I recognize my kids go to a conservative, small private school. That doesn't mean that I'm not concerned about all these other schools. It's a weird mentality. I keep saying this. It's a weird mentality, especially when you hear it from the left as well. The left goes, to me, they're like, why do you care about what's going on in the UK? Oh, can I not have compassion? Because you guys seem to care about what's going on in Palestine, and you've got absolutely bugger all to do with that. But at least I'm talking about the country that I was born and raised in. I kind of have a problem with that. And by the way, I do care about, like, Africa, where kids are dying of starvation. I do care about that. It's weird. It's a weird thing. The last boomer in the his schnizzle for 20 buckaroonies. Hey, Matt, just wanted to say hello. My newest grandchild, number 8, fourth boy, was just born. He's in some distress. And oh my gosh. And was medevaced to NICU in Topeka, Kansas. I'm asking all who are willing to pray for him. Everyone, please put your prayers up. Can we have his name, please? Would you mind, Boomer, so we can pray for him in his name? And I'll certainly do that when I get off here with my kids, because kids have a special line to Jesus, right? So please, I'm going to ask all the people that are watching now to pray. Yeah, if we can just get his first name, that'd be really great. I'm going to give you a line for that. It's going to be all right. Okay. Texas Lori D in the house. Do you know a product named Calvin? A product named Calvin. He knows you. I know a couple, actually. Is he on set right now? Does his second name begin with T, Laurie D? And I'm going to give you the sparkles. Jeffrey James Rose. So, guys, if you could seriously offer your prayers up for Jeffrey James Rose, and if you could please keep us informed. If you follow me on X, please just DM me. You know, it's amazing what they can do these days. In our medical system is really incredible. I got a friend of mine who she had a baby, and the baby could fit in her hand. It was this teeny tiny baby, and now he's grown. She's grown. Sorry, she's grown. Texas Laurie, is he a black guy? If it's the one I think about, is a black guy. It might be another one, but all right. Anyway, so let's get back to what we were talking about. Please, if you could all, like, before I move on, just all put in the chat, please say praying for Jeffrey James. That would be really amazing. Prayer matters, man. Prayer does matter. Prayer matters. I felt it when I went through my operation, guys. I did, and it's a powerful thing. So you got it, buddy. So educating people on what America really is vitally important, because you can do it. If you have one of the reasons why I've said, again, I hate to say this because this is one of the things I keep preaching about and why I want to stay on YouTube, is that if one person comes across these discussions and they go, hang on a minute, these are decent people, what this guy is saying is a reasonable thing, it opens their minds, or at least if they're curious, they'll say, oh, okay, I get it. These aren't all like MAGA maniacs. Which is one of the reasons why I had Patrick Coffin on and we spoke about the Catholic Church, because I wanted to unite Protestants and Catholics, because we have so much in common. We have the most important thing in common, that we shouldn't be arguing between each other. It's very silly, especially when we've got major problems right now. But if you have a education system that's pushing a narrative, but you have a culture that is pushing a counter narrative, it sparks a conversation. But if you have a culture that's pushing the same thing as the education system, then that, in an ideal world, you would have people that are free thinking, that could discern, and we'd be telling, going back to what I opened the show about, the truth, is you could discern. And we would hope that everything would be truthful. But as we know from the communists, it's not that way. The communists and the fascists, it's not that way. They get the education, they educate you and bombard you with propaganda. And so as these young minds are forming, that's what they're getting told. And young minds are notoriously rebellious to their parents. So it doesn't matter what you are telling them. You're getting pushback on so many different levels. It's really difficult. And then it only takes one bad act to ruin a kid. You know what I mean? Only one bad act, one moment of insanity. You're seeing, there was this, I saw on X the other day, there's this former porn star, and she's just crying her eyes up saying, I just regret this. I regret what I did. It was a huge mistake. And I think that about many, many people that make bad decisions, that they're not mentally in the right space. And that's one of the reasons why I said about Sydney Sweeney wearing that see-through dress, that she will one day regret it. Anyone who has done stupid things when they were younger and then they grow up and they go, probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, I have hundreds of instances of that. So the other thing that the culture does is it preserves our liberty, preserves our religious liberty. So what you've had over the past 2 decades is a constant drumbeat against Christians. If you want to look at the anti-Christian movies, you'll find that they're all anti-Catholic movies. And that's why maybe we should all stick together, right? Because the Catholic Church is the big dog that they're going to focus, but next it's going to be your church. And again, I have this book here. I have this book here that I read by Mehdi Hasan. It is. I cannot tell you what a vile person he is, and it comes through in the reading of the book. And the funny thing is, I have absolutely no intention on winning an argument. I always have the intention of getting to the truth. And those are two very, very different things. So the culture matters in the way it influences so many different things, including education. The other thing that the culture does, which is completely underrated, and conservatives will talk about it, but the politicians don't really want to talk about it because they want to think that they are the be-all and end-all of everything. And that is the way that it shapes public policy. The culture shapes public policy. What do I mean? Well, we didn't have all these pride things and the trans things and people fighting for trans, which I remember a few years ago reading the statistics. It's like 0.007% of the population were trans. And like I said, if you have time, go and watch my interview with Noelle Mehring, where she breaks down why the trans phenomenon is the trans phenomenon. But the culture pushed these companies to adopt the trans agenda. The culture then in turn pushed the politicians to adopt the trans agenda. That if you said anything, which I've said it over and over again, I am not being kind if my friend who's an alcoholic comes to me and begs for a beer. And I go, oh, well, you look really upset, so I should give you a beer. It's not being a good friend. It's not being responsible. So what you should do in those instances is say, no, you need help, which is exactly the same with the trans debate, which it shouldn't be debate at all. There are way more important things going on in the world than putting trans at the top of our list. But now, of course, it's just gone mental, literally. So you see it shaping public policy. The culture pushes it. And that's why the Democrats are up to their neck in Hollywood. As I said before, countering media bias is really important. And the media can do that. Other sides of the media can do it. But the truth is now is what you have is you have one side or the other side, and you don't have anyone that's looking at both sides for fear of being shunned. Well, and this goes for the people that fund these things. That's why it's really important that you guys fund them, that it comes from the people, because then you're not beholden to someone that says, hey, you can't say that about that Republican senator because we need him to win, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, but he's doing these really bad things. And we should care more about that, about the truth and about true evil, than we should about winning. Because you sell your soul, you're done. You compromise once, you are done. One of the things, probably the most important thing out of all of this, when it comes to the culture, is national identity. What it means to be an American. What it means to be British. Now, I waited a long time to watch Dunkirk. I don't think you can watch that movie without having real deep respect and admiration for the British people in World War II. It is so amazing to watch. And then you look at, I'll use my movie, Black Hawk Down. There it is, right there. The heroism of the men that were in Somalia, it's just unbelievable. It defines what it means to be an American. Never quit. We're coming back for you. We never leave a man behind. The grit and determination and the toughness of the American people is exemplified in that film. Now, the operation was a complete disaster, right? If that's the case, then why did applications to the Ranger Regiment in particular go through the roof? Because we understand heroism. People are proud to be American, and they should be. But we're being told constantly by the media that America's bad. It's the same thing in the UK. America's a colonialist, imperialist power, blah, blah, blah. Look at all the bad they did. Bad, bad, bad. What about all the good they did? What about the fact that it spread common law around the world? What about that? What about the beautiful buildings that it built all the way to India and back in Africa? What about all the great things that it did? You're not seeing those because the people that really understand what's going on are putting money into propaganda to make you feel like it's bad, feel that England's racist. I remember, guys, in the UK watching, everybody wanted to watch Roots. Do you remember that? Roots was such a huge thing. It came back again a few years ago. They redid it, but it just wasn't the same. But it riveted everybody. And it educated people on what happened in the United States. I read for my English, it was my English A-level or whether it was my English GCSE, To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, the UK has many great writers, and yes, I've read D.H. Lawrence's The Rainbow and a bunch of other stuff. I hated that, by the way. Maybe I need to go back and read it again. I read Wuthering Heights and a bunch of other stuff. But we read To Kill a Mockingbird, and it impressed this idea of America in my brain. Atticus Finch, what a great man he was. So it's important. These things are really important, and we have just abandoned them. If you look at the movies that have come out, think about the political movies that have come out recently. They're all leftists and they're all anti-Republican. So they did W. Didn't they do Cheney? If you think about all those movies, they're all negative. I mean, I know we did one that was like Reagan and it didn't do anything. But I think Cheney had Christian Bale in it. And then W had Josh Brolin, right? So you got these big stars and they're doing these massive movies. That's forever. Think about Hoover. They clearly defined who Hoover was. Think about Lincoln. Now, when you're looking at Lincoln and then you're seeing that Steven Spielberg went in and helped Joe Biden with his speeches, So we are disengaged from that. And when you talk to, this is the irony, when you talk to conservatives about it, like someone like me who was, in the industry for a very long time, and then I got cancelled because I'm conservative, they would rather go to a Hollywood person that's still in Hollywood now, which means they shut up going through COVID. They shut up when Obama was doing what he was doing. They shut up through the impeachment. They complied. And yet they're going to those guys for advice. What the hell are you thinking? Go to those of us who have stood up for conservative values and that have talent. Nick Searcy being another person. So, all in all, the culture is super important. And it happens to be important on a local level. Like, would you go and let your kids go to a ballet company now? Would you let your sons go to a ballet company? I know for every dude there's like, nope. Why not? Well, we know why. Would you let your kids even go into an acting school right now? Nope. Would you want your kids to go into Hollywood? No. When my son did I Am That Man, and my manager calls me up and goes, hey, would really love to take your son up on. And I was like, not a chance. What? I was like, no. Exactly. Cringe Panda in the house. Guys, listen. You guys have to go over and follow Cringe Panda. She is totally on the same page. She understands every single thing that I'm talking about. She knows underneath the hood. Let's just put it like that. And everyone should support her. We need to look after our youngsters. Yeah, little youngsters. You know, and she's awesome. So please, if you do not follow Cringe Panda, go follow her. She's awesome. Oh, look at that. Cringe Panda gives 2 buckaroonies. She's amazing. Again, being ostracized because of what she believes. It's criminal. So what I'm doing is for people like her. That's why, because people like it, we need more people like Cringe Panda out there. We really do. And again, the funny thing is, I don't want to go out there and do some kind of like conservative propaganda. I just want to make great movies. I just want to do really good TV shows. That's all I want to do. I just want to tell stories that inspire. I want to make It's a Wonderful Life. I want to make Man for All Seasons. That's what I want to do, just great things. I don't want to project my politics into them. I just want to tell stories. That's it. And by the way, I'd accept all different actors, but I don't want them insulting the audience. So if you've gone out there and you've insulted MAGA, I'm not going to hire you, which really doesn't leave many people to choose from. But we can totally build an alternate economy. And this is the thing here. I mean, in your local area, like I have no problem with people. I bring things up because we're in this kind of war. But if you want to come and talk to me, I'm always going to treat you with respect and dignity. It doesn't matter if I disagree with you politically. That's the way it used to be. The other side are the ones picking the fights with us, right? Like it's not like I've lived my entire life working with all different creeds, colors, sexualities. It's never bothered me. If you think I went into Hollywood having a problem with gays, for example, then you are sorely mistaken, right? I've always got on with everybody. And now it doesn't mean that, even in the way that like I'll turn around to friends of mine, I'm like, listen, you should not be living with one another if you're not married. These are principles. It's not targeting people, right? This is what we have to understand. You have to be, like I said, everyone's on a journey. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's at different points. And you just have to treat them with compassion. Now, on this platform, we get a little bit sharp-elbowed, right? That's because we're in a boxing match, because the other people come at you. And so you got to fight. You got to fight back. And if you're a street fighter... Michelle, there's a lot. And they're cowards, though, because, now is at this point, the amount of conservative actors I know that shut up and they have their television shows and they call me and they'll go, Matt, we love what you're doing. It's great. And they didn't call me to be hired onto their show. That's the problem. We don't stick together. You saw what happened with that guy who was in Different Strokes, right? They found him working in a Trader Joe's, and immediately, I think it was Oprah who called him up and said, I'm going to give you a job. We would never do that. That would never happen on the right. Never. No one would turn around to me and go, hey, Matt, listen, here's a check. Boom. Grow your show. Go off and do what you want to do. And let's bring people like Cringe Panda in, help her, guide her along in a career. Because that's where we are now, right? Like, I'm not going to go out and get any leads in movies anymore. I mean, maybe if I'm going to play like Santa Claus or something in a few years. But now you got to look at the next generation and helping them come along to mold the culture. And we have a real lack of people in the industry. And that's really tragic. So, and I see some like super, super talented people and their parents go, well, Matt, what do you think? Do you think they should go into acting? I'll go, no. Unless you write your own stuff, unless you're not reliant on other people. And when I go out to investors, because it's always the best way to go, you go out to investors to invest in a company, so you're going to build something. They go, no, there are more important things than that. I'm going to go and build a wing at Princeton, or I'm going to go and build a wing at, this university or what. And I'm like, that's not helping. Because guess what? All these colleges are going to go down. All these conservative colleges are going to go down eventually. Because we're losing the culture. Todd Bryant in the house. Mad So's War. Yeah, baby. You know what? I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get Todd on, and we're gonna have a chat. I've decided that, Todd. Will you kindly free up some time so I can interview you and we can talk about your career and all that you've done and talk about our mutual friend Alan Graff, who is a legend in stunts, and we can talk about a lot of things because I have to. So guys, on Friday I won't be doing my normal midday show. So it's either going to be a Friday night show or a Thursday night show. And I think people like the night shows. I've noticed that. And by the way, on Sundays I've noticed that you guys like coming on around 3:00, and I've been doing like 2:00, but by 3:00 you guys pile on, and I'm not entirely sure whether that's because you're watching another show and then you come over at 3, or whether like you've eaten your dinner, you've eaten your lunch, and then you're coming on. Look, let me tell you about Todd Bryant. Any stunt that you've seen Will Ferrell do in the past 20 years, it's Todd. Would that be fair? See, look, there you go, Todd. Yeah. Well, I'll let you talk about that, Todd, when we do the show. Todd got fired because he wouldn't take the vaccine. Yeah. So there you go. You have a man of integrity right there. So tell me, guys, would you rather have a Friday night or a Thursday night sesh? So if you let me know, because I've got to go somewhere on Friday. Oh, no way. Am I? I'm on when Georgie's on? I keep wanting to go on with George, but whenever he's on, I have all the kids in the house. And so, Thursday. All right. Listen to your wife, Todd. Happy wife, happy life. And Todd does have one of the best women around. Let me tell you that. She's amazing. All right. So tomorrow night it is then. Oh, we're going to have a night session. It's going to be fun. All right, guys, thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. You guys know what we're trying to do here. We're building a community, and it makes me so happy that we're getting such a great bunch of people that have been involved. And I see the friendships blossoming and getting to know each other, and that's really great. I'll blow you some kisses back. There you go. Let me think. Should we do about 9 o'clock p.m.? 9:30 Central Standard Time? Is that too late? Could possibly do 8. Let me know. I'll launch it and we'll see. All right, guys. Thank you for everything. Really appreciate you. And don't forget to give our prayers up. I'm going to give my prayers up when I get off for Jeffrey James. Offer it up. It's I can't even imagine going through something like that. I've been very blessed in my life. My kids, although they're head cases, most of them, and they have gone to hospital multiple times. I've never had anything really serious. So anytime that late is too late. You shut up, you. Yeah, just stop causing trouble. All right. My peeps will be there. That's all I'm saying. So God bless you guys. Say your prayers. And I'll see you tomorrow night. And remember, not all actors are like this, I promise. Bye-bye.